So let me invite the ambassador of Turkey to join me so we can discuss and start with asking him in a way, or allowing him, giving him the floor, as they say, to, in a way, respond to a couple of the points, or all of them, that were just made. Let me, in a way, start with one simple point, which was mentioned by Ambassador Malyas. It's been 45 years that, in a way, discussed two major leaders, President Demirel and President Karamanlis, not presidents then, but anyway, to probably work on taking our differences over the delimitation of the continental shelf, one could say now the exclusive economic zone 2, to some court, the International Court of Justice. So let me start, since this is the hottest point. Why not follow these two wise leaders' position and effort and materialize it right now?
Why not? Why not? I listened intently to what was said before I have this chance to take the floor. And I have to be honest, I don't have too many problems with a lot of the things that the previous speakers said, including, of course, Minister Avramopoulos. Now, yeah, why not? Because the only way we're going to really solve problems and keep them from coming back, that's another thing, keep them from coming back, is to establish trust and good neighborliness between the two countries. Now, the way things have gone in the past few years, past few decades, I would say, makes it more difficult for a bilateral approach to solving our problems. That's why I appreciate the idea of taking our problems to a supreme entity, such as the court. It can be ICJ, it can be a tribunal made up of clever people. Now, the problem is, Tom, unlike domestic courts, international courts work differently. First, you have to frame the problem. You have to say, this is what our dispute is. And then you have to ask the court, or whatever, the group of people, the third-party dispute settlement, as we sometimes call it, you have to ask that group to solve that problem using these tools. So unlike a domestic court, when you have a complaint about me, you just get a lawyer and go to court and they duke it out. No. To an international court, you have to agree to go. And that's where the problems start coming in. Because it was correctly mentioned by the previous speakers that, yeah, we do have problems. We have the width of territorial sea as a problem, continental shelf, airspace issues, such as the discrepancy between territorial sea and the airspace that this beautiful country claims. The role of FIR, Flight Information Region. That's a dispute that not a lot of people are aware of. Search and rescue regions, the rocks and other islets that are just sitting there, that both sides think, hey, this could be ours. This is ours. So also demilitarization. Now that is also a hot topic, okay? So we first have to agree on what the problem is, and then take our problems as much as we can, solve it together, and then take it to court, because honestly, I don't think that even if we, through a bilateral mechanism, if we came out with the exact identical solution that a court could come up with, I don't think at this point it could be digestible to either public.
Okay, so we do have the differences. You claim we have an array of differences. We say it's one, or you can say continental shelf plus exclusive economic zone. I go back to the 45 years ago. Wouldn't it, I'm just thinking here, easier to start with the one we had agreed previously? Two leaders with deep respect in their own countries, Demirel and Karamanlis. You take this to the court, which in so many ways looks as if, even from your side, might be, if not the most important one. I know you're talking about the islands and so many others, but it's a major, even for you, a major issue. So since we agree on that, wouldn't that offer the possibility of you going only for this? We say this is a difference. We have a positive development there. And then, I'm not the Greek government here, and I'm not talking about what the official Athens position is, but trying to be in the Turkey's position. This could open up a possibility of saying, you know what, okay, now that we have a better climate, that we solved the issue we both agreed was the main issue, but you know, we believe there are some more issues. You don't. Okay. There might be, we still don't agree, but at that point, it could be a better climate even from your own position. I'm trying to be in your own shoes to see if it's not a smart move. We could open up, you know, you solve this, you create a better climate in the Aegean, which is good for us, but for you too, with the US, with the European Union, and then you could come back. I'm not saying we will agree, but it could be a better, a more intelligent approach. That's what I think.
We could, but then the problem is the way that international law, or law of the sea in general, works. Because you have different maritime zones which are contingent upon each other. In other words, first you have, not to be too technical, but you have your territorial sea, and then after your territorial sea ends, something else begins, right? So, and the continental shelf and the airspace above these something else's depend on where the territorial sea ends. So it is not reasonable to go to court on continental shelf unless we know what happens to territorial sea. Now, the way to address this problem would be, okay, either we address the problem bilaterally and say, territorial sea will be this or that, and then go to court, or we say, we freeze the territorial sea and then go to court, and the court says, this is where the line goes, ladies and gentlemen. So you see, they're interrelated. You cannot talk about continental shelf in a sea space such as the Aegean unless you know where the territorial sea ends. If the whole problem, this thing was not a problem, by the way, for all these decades. And Greece itself, throughout the evolution of maritime law, all the way up to the 60s, 58, I think, there was a big conference, Greece itself was saying we shouldn't go beyond 6 miles. Why? Because for Greece, just like for Turkey, it is important to have freedom of navigation. So you see, we have to talk to each other, even if we go to court.
We're never going to agree publicly because in '95 we actually based our position on the law of the sea by saying we'll go to 12. Right. And you have your own positions, but let's take, in 10 minutes, we're going to have some other issues too. So let me move to the US, and we do have the ambassador here who spoke eloquently about his efforts and his country's efforts about the defense agreement with Greece, which includes northern Greece, more specifically in a way, Alexandroupolis. The president of Turkey just met his US counterpart, and in comments he made, we are left with the idea that he's annoyed by the increased US presence in some areas, especially Alexandroupolis, which, as he said, is close to the border with Turkey. So my question is, with both NATO allies, aren't we allowed to have a good relationship with the US and have our own bases or whatever? There's a base in Incirlik, there are other bases. Why should why should Turkey be upset about this presence, which is definitely not aimed at Turkey?
Look, before I answer that question, I've been here 3 years. And I hope I'm wrong, but it seems to me that annoying Turkey seems to be one box that needs to be checked when formulating foreign policy. I hope I'm wrong, because it's not a good idea to have a value added assigned to a policy if it annoys your neighbor. Having said that, why should we be annoyed? Should we be annoyed?
No.
No. So we're not.
Good.
But
so the US can be in Alexandroupolis, yes. No problem with Turkey, because it's not aiming at Turkey.
Right.
Actually, I think their goal is the Balkans.
What is of interest, Tom, to us, is Eastern Europe and the Black Sea. Now, we have the longest coast on the Black Sea, right? And the Black Sea, in general, and Eastern Europe are our business. Okay? So the American allies have repeatedly said that the use of Alexandroupoli has nothing to do with Turkey. And we usually believe what they say, right? So,
when a diplomat says usually...
I always like to have an open door.
A little bit.
But what is it about then? It is about the security of our allies in the Balkans or Eastern Europe.
Greece, I mean, mainly
Yes,
Greece,
of
but
course.
the whole area.
And the Black Sea. Now, the Black Sea is very important to us because it is one of the main theaters between us and the former Soviet Union, now Russia. So, of course, it is our business to make sure that the balances in the region, including the Black Sea and Eastern Europe, are maintained, because we would be on the first line to suffer if the balances are tipped.
It would have been a great point if you could convince me that the US presence in Alexandroupolis somehow increases Russia's influence or strength in the area. You would have had a perfect point. But assuming it does not, and I assume the ambassador would definitely say we're not an ally of Russia right now, then your argument is a little bit, why would you be worried? I mean, the balance will not change in the area, given your rights, which are true, they are there, by US presence in Andropolis. I mean, would they change the balance in favor of Russia or some other power?
No, not in favor of Russia. Look at the pronouncements made by the Russians in response to this move. That is what is raising our eyebrows. What the Russians feel. It's important what the Russians feel about Black Sea and East. They are our neighbors also. And sorry, but we know the Russians. You don't mess with the Russians.
Okay.
So
you don't necessarily buy weapons from them if you're a NATO ally, but you don't mess with them. That's let me, as I said, 6 minutes. We could talk 4 hours. So
is it our 6 minutes?
Yeah,
or?
left. We'll take some more minutes, I think. They will be kind enough. Libya.
Yes.
Disagreement.
Yes.
The memorandum between Ankara and Tripoli, although Tripoli, not the whole. May I say, not as a Greek, but as a citizen of the world, that it looks as if it's not based on international law and it's not logical or rational?
Listen, I was listening to what some colleagues have said before. It wasn't Turkey that invaded Libya. In 2011, who was it? In 2011, who started unilaterally an action against Libya? Was it Turkey? No. It was France. Yes, it
Not
was
the
France.
unilateral, okay.
It was unilateral at first. Then we all backed it. It was France. I lived in Libya for 2 years.
Okay.
I have many Libyan friends. They're wonderful people. And they're just in trouble. So we need to help them. It's a very large country. It was 4 or 5 million when I was there 10 years ago.
Natural resources too?
Natural resources. We're not in it for the natural resources. Okay? So nothing that we do is out of the blue, Tom. Nothing we do. So Eastern Mediterranean, I came to Greece 3 years ago. I came from the department of the foreign ministry that proposes to the government and the parliament maritime jurisdiction zones, drawing the lines to say this belongs to Turkey. Up to the point that I came to Greece, the line that we thought would be delimiting our continental shelf stopped at 28th meridian. And there was always, in our maps, you can check them, always an asterisk saying, the rest shall be delimited in accordance with international law, following consultations with interested parties. Okay?
Meaning Egypt and Greece?
Egypt
or
and
Cyprus?
Greece. Yes, yes. Egypt. Cyprus is 6
An
minutes.
entity. No, I'm
6
kidding.
minutes is not enough for Cyprus. I can get to that also by popular demand. But it was only after what we saw as not so honest attempts, indirect attempts to pass through an area which is not delimited, thereby using that as state practice to say in the future, well, we have a pipeline here, so this is ours, okay? That is the reason why we closed, solidified that dotted line where we think is ours. So that explains the Libya deal. It did not come out just like that, but we, probably just like Greece, we don't like objects coming towards us that we didn't invite, okay? So we kept saying, and we still say it, let's talk about delimitation. Now, Cyprus is a whole different issue. Cyprus question needs to be solved before a portion of that line can be drawn. And that's a whole, kettle of fish, like they say.
I apologize if I run to other issues. Every issue can be discussed in depth for long, but let's me move to immigration,
Sure.
where we both have an issue, especially after Afghanistan. Is there an area of cooperation there? Because going beyond what happened in Evros, one could look in a positive way. The Greek Prime Minister called the Turkish President after Afghanistan. They both, for different reasons or similar reasons, have concerns. Is there an area, I think our minister was in Ankara a couple of days ago or yesterday.
Yes.
How do we go ahead with working together on immigration and avoiding incidents that don't help the effort on dealing with other issues too?
Well, I think the Prime Minister's call to President Erdogan was absolutely the right move. And I checked the readout of that call, and not only the call, but what was said in the call was very, very promising. Because the only way we, Turkey and Greece, are going to be able to tackle the problem is to talk to each other and coordinate. So if you look at the map on the route of migration, all the way from Afghanistan to Western Europe, each country blames the one on the east. Okay? So The migrants are not Turks. The migrants are not Greek. The migrants do not want to stay in Greece either. We have, for 10 years, 4 million people we're feeding, we're clothing, we're caring for. 1 million babies were born to Syrians, were born in Turkey. What do you do with them? You can't keep them in tents. We're not a member of the European Union. We pay our own dues to keep these people alive. So the irony of it all is that I read the Greek papers. You feel exactly the way we feel, that those to our west are not sensitive enough to our plight. So at least Greece and Turkey should be able to cooperate because we feel the same way. We're in the same boat.
That's why if we had no threats and if the rhetoric from President Erdogan or Mr. Akar was different and the situation between our countries was different, we could have worked on issues of similar concern to us. And that's my last question. Why? Because you have to agree that the rhetoric is not as calm as it should be. Why is this? I mean, except if one, I don't want to go into domestic politics, but I assume appealing to the far right is part of the equation. We also have our problems.
Are you talking about Greece?
No, I'm talking about, about Turkey. So in this case with Bahçeli, I'm sure the President Erdogan is trying to appeal to a certain segment. Is that just it? Could we, the Greeks, look forward to very soon a day when President Erdogan will lower the heat, will not, and allow a response from our leadership to be more forthcoming, thus opening up the road to dealing with immigration in a better way, allowing us to help you with Brussels?
Listen, you had a great piece today. I read it on my way here. Let's make a deal. I will translate it and send it to Ankara. You translate it to Greek and send it to Athens.
It was in the Greek paper too, so okay, I covered my part of the deal.
Yes, because I agree. There's too much talking. And I'm not in the habit of interpreting what my president says or doesn't say. It's not what we do. But it's the chicken or the egg, argument. You said this, and I'm saying this because you said that yesterday. We need to stop it. And the way to stop it is to not talk to third parties to complain about each other, but to talk to each other, not talk about each other.
Again, we are on the red for the last 3-4 minutes. This concludes, I guess, in a semi-positive note. Let's talk to each other instead of for each other or at each other. And we'll move to the next panel, which was supposed to be the one before us. Maria, thank you very much.